Hey there folks, Bryce Holdaway here. Today I've got Ben Kingsley and also the founder of DSI Data, and we want to talk all things location. And the first question we want to ask Jeremy is, he's very interested in lots of research and lots of data, mate. But ultimately we're talking about an essential need, it's an emotional asset. Do we actually really need this data?
No, you don't need capital growth, you don't need rental yield, you don't need the data. Yeah, you can have miserable investments, Bryce, knock yourself out.
But it's not a managed fund, it's not shares where there's a lot of technical data. It's essentially something that people need to put a roof over their head, and it does make for a good investment. But I mean, most people don't go to the level of detail that you go into. Why did you start DSI Data?
Well, after investing myself and realising what I was researching, I knew that I needed to collect certain information. It all comes down to supply and demand. For any commodity or service, the price of it is determined purely by supply and demand. So I was after supply and demand indicators for property investing, and there are quite a large number of them. So I had to process a lot of them for an entire country to find the best locations to invest, and that meant doing something quite complicated.
And that's the best part of it. I mean, ultimately what we're trying to do here is aggregate data to try and find the best opportunities. You know, we talk about borderless investing and those types of things in all the sort of education that we give. This is a way in which we can funnel that down into those variables, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a great way of processing an enormous amount of information very quickly. Computers can do that a lot better than a human brain can. They can acquire a large amount of information, and automating that process obviously makes property investment research so much more powerful.
Well, there's over 15,000 suburbs, over 9 million dwellings, so you're right, being able to analyse that in real time quickly is a real advantage. But when you first started your mission to measure the data, what did that look like for you? How did it start off?
It was really a case of what's available. So I had limited access to information, and it was things like yields and auction clearance rates. It was really whatever I could get my hands on. And then I realised that what I'm chasing here is supply and demand indicators, and then I'd start filtering out some of those less useful things that I'd know about a suburb, and just trying to target how much does this indicator reflect demand or supply, or a bit of both.
And Ben, you're a real research nut
yourself.
I love it
too. I love the data.
And it's bringing it all together. You know, when you're talking about equities and shares, they've actually got really sophisticated research models. But when it comes to residential real estate, it's in the dark ages from where you can start.
No, there's no doubt that Jeremy pioneered a lot of the thought processes that a lot of us were having in terms of how do we quickly and easily aggregate all that information. So when you're buying in one state or one area, it's a little bit easier, but you then have that little thing in the back of your head going, is this the right area to go in? Is there a better area in Australia that my money is? I mean, at the end of the day, as you talk about, Bryce, it's just a bricks and mortar bank account. So the best way, and we're looking for outperformance, so we're looking for capital growth. So I think from that point of view, what I love about, and when I identified the DSR data that Jeremy was putting together, I wanted to make that connection. I wanted to make that partnership to make sure that we understood that there's this fantastic engine with data that we can analyse, and we've got data back to 2010 to be able to do that. So putting that together and then bringing that to the general public for them to be able to digest in a simple and easy way just made perfect sense to me.
So Jeremy, it's now evolved to be a very powerful engine for people to be able to identify where they should start their research. What does the basis of DSR look like? What variables are you looking to analyse to get to that initial starting point?
Okay, so the obvious ones, pretty much everyone knows about auction clearance rates. Auction clearance rates are quite high when the market demand for property is higher than supply. There are other less known indicators like the number of people that are searching online versus how many properties are available online. There are things like yield and vacancy rate, which most people are familiar with, and perhaps not so familiar with vendor discounting or days on market. So we just start with the basics and analyse each metric and see whether it has an influence, a correlation with capital growth, and then munge it all together.
And what I like about that is it's not just an average weighting. So different variables are going to get different weightings to try and get that precision, and this is the subject matter expertise that comes to the table. So, you know, this type of partnership is perfect for allowing us to help people have a look and just vet suburbs relatively easily, or aggregate down to suburbs to start doing more research. So I'm delighted that LocationScore is going to be able to provide that at a cost-effective way for people not to make mistakes in property.
So why don't you get the LocationScore advantage for yourself? Go to our homepage, put in your suburb, and within seconds you'll find out what the LocationScore is for your suburb. And you can take advantage of all the years of Jeremy's research to see how that impacts on your house.